Welcome to Tame the Taboo. This podcast is brought to you by Discover Her Health. Discover Her Health specializes in healthcare, education, and resources for her most intimate concerns. I'm your host, Nurse Jenna Ray. I'm a women's health and gender-related nurse practitioner, and I am making it my business to take you from sufferer to sensei. So if you are suffering from conditions that are not easily treated in an annual exam, or you want to join me on this journey to become my healthiest, wealthiest, best business owning self, sit back, relax, and enjoy these episodes. Hey, it's Nurse Jenna Ray here, and I'm so proud to welcome you back to another episode of Tame the Taboo. Today, I have my friend Bryan Klipsch. Oh my God, how can I say friend and then completely screw up your name? Bryan Klipsch is joining us on the podcast today, and he is a friend of mine, and I'm so excited to welcome you, Bryan, to the podcast. So tell the folks who you are, what you do, and let's get into it.
Yeah, let's get into it. And thank you, Jenna. Jenna and I met and we just were off the rip, we're going to be homies. So it's cool to be able to do this. So currently I am the CEO of a few ventures. One of them is called Gym to Gym. It's essentially Airbnb for gyms in the simplest way possible. We can dive into it. I think for your audience, I want to spend time too talking about BK Equity and Consulting. So it's a small consulting and equity fund. There's only 3 general partners, and then we have some associates, but we help early stage companies get from, we'll call it A to B. So we're constantly working with young founders, people that are doing this for the first time. They may not know how to, simply build a deck, go to market, scale, revenue models. So we usually help, again, pre-seed and seed stage companies in tech. And what does tech even mean, right? Everything is tech nowadays. So the companies we work with run the gamut. My favorite one right now is a direct consumer sock company. They're based in the UK, and this guy is just so hungry and he's good and he's working so hard, but he just doesn't have the knowledge to know that, okay, hey, you shouldn't be spending this much money on your OpEx on marketing when you don't even have a robust pipeline of supply going on and your COGS are too high. So he just hasn't done it. So it's been really refreshing to help him. And on the equity side of it, we invest through some syndicates and other companies. So a lot of angel investing going on. It's a small fund. We only have 500K AUM, which is very small. That's assets under management for those of you that aren't finance nerds like I am. So, and then the last company I'm building at the moment, it's called Badass Kid. It's really cool. It's a production studio in LA, and it's a combination of a couple projects I was working on. One was called Babel, which is a dance, EDM consciousness, think Burning Man party type thing. And then Badass Kid is just a really cool production studio. They do a lot of cool content for Red Bull and Mercedes and Fendi, and we're scaling that pretty quickly right now. So it seems like a lot, but I promise I have a personal life too.
Yeah, people look at my story and they're like, what are you doing? Why are you doing so much? And it's so interesting. Before we hopped on to record, we were talking about how our vision and our goal is to not be CEOs who work so hard. I actually just want to be a CEO who comes in, does the visionary activities, and I'm able to let go of the reins and let other people do what they are good at, the implementation. So how are you moving towards that goal?
It's a good question. I think, what's the phrase? If you're the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room, right? So I've tried really hard to staff all these companies with people that are going to be better at the job than I am, right? I have no ego in this. Yeah, it's my idea. Yes, I was the visionary. I've been trying to work on the mental health, or just kind of the personal side of it, of not having attachment or identity in these things that I'm building, because then I think it's going to be harder for me to sunset my time with them and then pass the reins over. So those are the big two. I think staffing is so important. Just, I want my team to be, hungry and killers, of course, but then be able to fill the shoes that I've laid for them. And then the mental health side is important too, because a lot of people, founders and CEOs, I know, they attach their identity to these things that they're building, and then they can never let go of it. And then they're still working 60 hours a week, but they're worth hundreds of millions of dollars. And I'm like, what's the point?
Because you can't enjoy it.
Yeah. And we were talking before, again, I think I'm the type of entrepreneur, and I would love to make an exit so I could build a BK foundation and just help people for the rest of my life. Or I love photography. There's BK photography for anyone that wants to look at some cool pictures. But I would love just to focus on those projects 20 hours a week and then inspire other people to do what I've done. Like I think paying it forward is so cool. So that's the long-term goal.
That's awesome. So I'm obviously trained as a nurse. I'm in healthcare and we don't learn anything about business. And what I'm realizing now after kind of putting on my CEO hat is that there is a lot of room for growth for healthcare founders. So a lot of my friends listen to the podcast. And again, we're all about like taming the taboo as far as like business building, health, sexual health, all of the things that people don't talk about, finances. So what sort of advice would you have for someone like me who is that founder, who is just getting started? And I do have some staff, but not a whole lot. Like, how do I really transition from being a worker to being a innovator?
That's a great question. I think for myself, I remember I was working at Google, which seems like cool, right? But working at Google and being an entrepreneur is so different. Google is just a huge corporation. It's not, you're one of literally 10,000 people. So at that time, I started listening to this podcast. It's called How I Built This with Guy Raz. You can listen to it anywhere. And I listened to it religiously. And it's just founders that have had some successful exits, but it takes you through their journey from Genesis to kind of where they are now. And a lot of them are not, some are currently still CEOs, but a lot of them are not, and they're doing new projects. So I think there's simple things like podcasts, dude. It's a great way to get some just life lessons from people that have done it. I think the other one for me is when I first started BK, I didn't have any money to hire people. I had no money, but I got some really good interns that just wanted experience. So I always tell founders, you can find ways that it's low OPEX or costs. You get to help and inspire and teach young people, which I'm passionate about. And at the same time, nowadays, you don't need a college degree to know business. You could watch YouTube videos, you could listen to podcasts. These interns could expedite their growth. And then now you have full functioning staff. Maybe you have more revenue now because of them. Then you can start to pay them. So there's free ways too. When you're in the beginning, you're able to kind of build an ecosystem that allows you to kind of take a step back and be like, okay, now I can actually just be a manager and delegate tasks. And that's, yeah, what else would that's a good question. And I think too, there are a lot of good books too. I'm a really big reader. I would suggest that. Like, I don't think you need an MBA anymore to know how to run the financial side of a company. It's just really not necessary. So, and there are a lot of good LinkedIn newsletters that in the beginning really helped me. Crunchbase is one of them. PitchBook is another one of them. BriefLink is one of them. Those really were helpful for me in the beginning too, just to learn how other people were managing their companies and then sunsetting their time so they could go do whatever's next.
So leverage technology and the vast amount of education that we have out there without necessarily needing to step back and go and get an MBA.
Yeah, because then you're going to completely, it's hard to get an MBA. You're going to have to wear multiple hats. You're not going to be able to scale your company and get an MBA at the same time. The best wish would be, okay, I could coast this company for 2 years and kind of stay where we are while I get my MBA. And the real reality is most people get MBAs so they can have a sick job. Like, lean into the fact that you're a visionary, sweetheart. Like, you're a killer already. You don't need the MBA to be at that status. So just, I think there's way more free education out there, and lean into tech. Yeah. What a like tech founder cliche, right? Lean into tech.
I love it. I love it. And then do some consulting with Bryan. Definitely.
Yeah. And we'll get you really low billables, I promise.
Yeah. I love it. So the way that we actually met is we were at a business building all around human-centered design at the University of Pennsylvania, which is my alma mater. And we were learning about ways to make sure that when we are creating these businesses, because I have multiple businesses that I'm running and creating, same thing with you, when we are doing that, that we are keeping our focus, our vision on the people that will be impacted and also on the people that aren't necessarily our consumers, but who will be affected by the things that we create. So just tell the audience a little bit about some of the things that you learned during that experience.
Good question. I think for me, it was a really good learning experience to remember we can think about all these good ideas about product, but you really have to put yourself in the mindset of the end user and say, okay, what is this person really struggling with on a day to day? And I really think it reminded me that you build companies around consumers and the users themselves. You don't build them around what you think they want. So I think when we're being equitable in design and the roadmap of a company into the future, we have to remember the more we can have it designed by them for them, it's a really powerful way for you to have product market match and just be a decent fucking person and make sure that your company's equitable, right? So, for example, for gym to gym, that's a really good idea. And it's the stories that I hear from the user, and that's really where we focus. That says, I'm overweight and I'm self conscious and I don't want to go to the gym. I need a private place to work out. Those are the stories I like, or the women that have come up to us and said, I get harassed every time I go to the gym and now I can feel safe and comfortable. Or members of the queer community that have the same experience. They don't like going to the gym because they're stared at or made fun of. That's like where we lean into when we're designing the front end of gym to gym is, okay, what does this person need to feel okay? And then that automatically makes the product exactly what it needs to be.
Probably allows you to not have to work so hard to do the guesswork and create a product that people don't want anyway, so that you can spend less time working hard as a CEO and more time being a visionary and just having the good ideas and letting the people really do the work for you in a way.
Exactly. And the product market feedback loop, I think people start too late. Like, I always believe you need to do that from the genesis, from the get go, off the rip. Just start talking to people. It doesn't matter if it's an official, oh my gosh, why is the name escaping me? Official test group or a beta group, right? You don't need these official groups. Just have anecdotal conversations with the people that are your target audience. And then, yeah, you don't have to do all the work. And it feels good to know that you're building something that's going to help people. That's what disruptive, visionary companies do. They're changing people's lives. And the only way to change someone's life is to talk to them to figure out what they want changed.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, that was I'm glad we had such a good time that week.
It was such a good time. It really does. Practicing business building in this way also kind of feels like a fuck you to the patriarchy, because it's not this kind of dogmatic, especially being in this realm of healthcare, right? It's
Yeah.
not me saying this is what you need and this is the mode that I've been taught, and so I'm going to deliver it in this way to you. It's me really talking to my clients and being like, how can I make this better? And then next week being able to implement whatever feedback that they gave me. And so that's why we can be kind of this anti-traditional healthcare system here at Discover Health, because we can say, this is what the girlies are saying, this is what they want, and so this is what we're giving them.
I completely agree. I'm snapping like down here, but nobody could see me. We've had the same experience lately with gym to gym because the big corporate gyms of the world, the patriarchy, they're going to try to crush us. And I'm just going to say, fuck you. This is what people want. And it's really easy. I don't know if you get this experience, but for me, I get jaded quickly, and it's hard, and I need those conversations with the end user to remember, like, okay, this is why I'm working so hard right now to build this, because it's actually needed in the market. And then you get continually inspired, because it's easy when you're a founder to get just blindsided and just really hyper focused, because it's a lot of work, and you kind of need that, like, just, oh yeah, this is really cool what we're building and it's really going to help people.
Yeah, that difference between just acting or action and busy work and inspired action of
Yeah.
like, I'm doing something that's good, that has a purpose. I see the end goal, like the vision is crystallized in my mind. It's very clear. And I know it's going to be a good thing, versus just being caught up in like the emailing and the talking and all of the busyness of it. It's hard.
Yeah, the hiring, the spreadsheets, like I stopped working at Goldman so I don't have to look at performas and spreadsheets for the rest of my life. I'm not a big believer in goals, actually, or like 30, 60, 90s, which is very contrary to what a lot of people suggest. But I think the more I can stay in a 24-hour period and say, okay, what needs to be done today? Like, I think a lot of founders I talk to, they get googly eyed about the unicorn or the exit. I'm like, well, you have 2,500 steps you need to take before that. So it's just focus on, and when I do set goals, I try to make them very short and quick. It's like, okay, where do I want to be a month from now? Where do I want to be at the end of this week? What do we need to accomplish in the next 7 days? to make sure, because in tech and this and the world we live in, things move and change so rapidly that you just have to, you're going to pivot no matter what. So if I set a goal 6 months from now, I'm going to take 10 pivots before the end of that 6 months. So it's just a waste of thought and really exercise.
And it's so good to be able to achieve those short-term goals. And it really, for me, kind of fuels me. It's like, okay, I did that. Now it's building my confidence. I call it like building the muscle to handle the hustle, right? Like you gotta be able to get those reps in of like being successful. And so taking the smaller bites and being able to be like, okay, I did that. It really just builds confidence in me and hopefully in our viewers and our audience too. Like the more you are able to get good at something, the more you want to do it, and it's just going to cause your growth to explode.
I agree. And then, like, on the inverse of that, you are going to fail, right? No matter what. So when you do fail, it's not this massive failure. It's just a small failure. And then you'll quickly learn no matter what, there's always light on the other side of darkness. We can get through this failure. We'll be okay. So it makes you get motivated, but then you also learn to get through like the shit times that every startup has, because they're not like this catastrophic, it's the end of the company. It's just like, oh, we didn't hire the person we wanted to this week. Fuck. And then you figure out, oh, well, next week we just hired the best person in the world that I would have not wanted to hire anyone else last week anyway. So it all works out.
I love it. Okay, so you are a visionary. You also call yourself a nomad, so you love to travel.
Yeah.
How does your love of travel like influence your business?
That's a good question. I think I've been so comfortable in the unknown. So I went to boarding school when I was 13. I went to college in the UK.
Oh,
I backpacked for like 9 months and then another 3 month period, another 4 month period. I moved to LA when I didn't know anyone. So I've always been really uncomfortable in the unknown. And it wasn't that way in the beginning. Like I learned to be just okay, I guess, in discomfort and just like up in the air kind of. That I think that really applies to business too. You get really good at just knowing, okay, like we're going to do the best we can today. I really have no idea if this is going to work or not because we know we don't. So you're able to just kind of be comfortable because at the end of the day, people always, I think, put visionaries and entrepreneurs and CEOs on this pedestal, but it's a very lonely road. You don't have a lot of peers that you can readily just lean on. Like, yeah, it's cool and there's benefits, but there's a cost to everything. And loneliness is a part of that, or just working a lot and being tired. So I think the travel just taught me that, yeah, my Instagram looks really cool and it looks like I'm all over the world, but you don't see the lonely times in an airplane or the lonely times on a train. So I do think it did teach me to be okay in discomfort. And sorry, listeners, like to break it. If you're going to be a founder, you're eventually going to have some uncomfortable moments. It's just the nature of the game.
yeah. It's a matter of, do you want to be uncomfortable working for somebody else or do you want to be uncomfortable building your own vision?
Yeah.
And for me, it was like the vision was so crystal clear. The calling that like God really placed on my life to do this work was so clear that every moment that I spent not doing it, it was just torture.
Hmm.
So it's hard now. Doing it is definitely lots of work, but it's so rewarding because I know I'm walking in my purpose. And I really feel like I find my flow a lot more readily now that I'm not just like being an implementer in the traditional healthcare world.
I totally agree with you. And we were kind of talking about this before. I think I talked to a lot of founders that have the same feeling. Like, I never feel like I'm going to work. Like, I don't compartmentalize work in my other aspects of life. Like, it's just life because I know this is my purpose. I know this is what I'm supposed to be building. So I don't turn work off, which probably isn't a great thing,
Right.
like at 5 p.m. It's just always going and on because I know I'm in the flow. I know this is what I'm supposed to be doing. And no matter what, if you're doing what the universe has intended you to do, I don't care how shit of a day it is. When my head goes on the pillow, I sleep well because I know I'm doing what I'm supposed to do. And that to me is the point of that's a good life. If you can put your head on your pillow and have no regrets for the day, good shit.
Definitely. And be able to help people all the while, right?
Yeah.
It's just so special to me to be able to like help women feel good in their bodies, like be break free from physical pain, break free from shame. And for you, being able to help other businesses and help people be able to move their bodies and go to gyms and feel comfortable. So dope.
Yeah, and it's also we're in really hard economic times, so people need extra revenue streams, and a lot of people have gyms at their home that just sit empty all the time. So I think it's just a perfect time for gym to gym to come to the market. And people always say, well, you're capitalizing on a bad market and people's fear of going to the gym because of COVID. And it's like, okay, you could say that, or are we just giving them a solution and meeting the world where it is right now? Like,
Mhm.
call a spade a spade. This is where we are. And but yeah, the helping people part, that's probably, if I had one answer of what motivates you, I think it's helping other people, period.
Mhm. Period. I love that. So I don't remember that you went, or I didn't know that you went to boarding school. I did too. And it really was like such a crazy time in life for me. I went from being in inner city Detroit and I got plopped in the middle of nowhere, Tennessee. And that was really my first experience of having to learn and adapt
Mhm.
quickly. Okay, I'm in a different environment. I have to learn how these people talk, how they move, what activities they do. And I think that's definitely been a skill that's come in handy being an entrepreneur. It's like, okay, I need to figure out I got to read the room and move
Figure
accordingly.
out, yeah, how I can maneuver here. And
Mhm.
I don't know, did you have the same experience? I think the biggest benefit of boarding school for me was once I got to college and everyone was like excited and partying, I'm like, dude, I've been away from parental supervision for 4 years. Like, this is not that cool. So I was able to really come to college with a clear idea and vision for what I wanted to do and like really take advantage of that academic period of my life versus other people were kind of dealing with the stuff we dealt with at boarding school of like, oh no, this is a new environment. We got to figure out how to maneuver. We got to figure out how to read this room. So you get kind of a jump start on adult life. I liked it.
Yeah, definitely looking back on it, I can see the benefits of it. Like
At the
I was
time, yeah.
Yeah, that sense of freedom that my peers I could see were like, you're getting way too drunk right now, or like, you're doing way too many drugs. Like, you need to reel it in a little bit. I had already lived through that. And so I was like, it's time for me to grind. It's time for me to get here, get my degree, and move on to the next thing. And I think that really was one of the reasons that I was able to start. Like, I started my nurse practitioner career at 24 years old. So I was like, let me get in and get out.
Yeah, I was so motivated. I did not want to be at college. I wanted to be an adult. I wanted to have a job. I wanted to go to the next thing because, yeah, and it's probably people listening are like, well, yeah, you're just getting drunk at 14 or 15, but it's a little better than like wasting away money in college years. I was able to get it out of my system. I was able to kind of help other college friends of mine take a step back and be like, dude, look, I know it seems cool that you have freedom right now, but it's not that cool. I promise you, this is
Right.
not the end of it.
Right. I partied. I loved my time in college. It was probably one of my
Me
favorite
too.
times of my life, but I didn't go overboard for sure. And I didn't party that much in high school either. I was very much like, let me get in and out of here too. Like, I'm here for a purpose, and that purpose is to not have to stay here forever, to learn the lessons and keep it pushing.
I certainly partied too much in boarding school, and we were an hour outside of New York City, so it was just kind of that like ethos of people. But no, college was my favorite time. Mm, one of my favorite chapters of life, just because it was a good time in the world too. Obama got elected. Like, we had so much hope and just like inspiration, and it was just like a really
Yeah.
cool. It was a really cool time. Yeah.
Yeah. And then here come the 20s, the roaring 20s.
Oh, I know. We got COVID. We got Trump. We got bullshit.
But
A
we're
very
making the most of it. Really. I think that a lot of innovation comes out of like hard times. And so I'm so excited to see the world that is going to emerge out of all of this like chaos that we're currently experiencing. And I'm proud of us for being able to say, I'm put my stake in the ground here, and this is how I'm going to change the world. I'm going to change healthcare. I'm going to change gyms. I'm going to change businesses.
I totally agree. And I don't think it's as dark as people tend to believe it is. I think there's a lot of over dissemination of negative messaging. And I think people just get these clickbait, negative enticements all the time. I think we'll look back 5 years from now and be, oh, like, we weren't that fucked. We just were told we were fucked. So when I like talk to individual people, I think there's more optimism than like the media or whatever wants us to actually believe. Hopefully. I'm a rational optimist. So
I love that. So, well, I think this has been such a great conversation, just being able to reconnect and introduce my audience to you. Again, we have lots of people who are struggling with their physical bodies, and to know that something like Gym to Gym is coming out so that because people with disabilities, right? If you're dealing with pain, you also probably don't want to be inside of a traditional gym. And also the business building side too. I'm helping healthcare providers to build their businesses. And so hopefully our audiences were able to get something out of today's conversation.
Well, I hope so. And I'm sure you'll find my tag when this is posted. Go to BK, go to Gym to Gym, download the app. I have 30-minute free consultations at BK. It might be me, it might be one of the other junior partners or general partners, but we're happy to talk to you for 30 minutes and at least get you on the right direction. We like to see people win. Mutual winning.
Love it. It's a whole lot of winning.
This has been really fun. I'm glad we did this.
Yes. So just so people can know where to find you on social media, what is your handle?
It's at Comfortable Nomad. So Comfortable Nomad, that's the handle. And then it's just gym2gym.com or bkequityandconsulting.com.
Nice. Well, Bryan, it's always a pleasure talking to you and catching up. I'm so excited for all of the things that you have going on. And thank you for helping us to tame the taboo today.
Well, thank you for having me. This was a lot of fun. And we're going to see each other soon in person. I have a feeling.
Definitely, definitely.
All right.
All right. Have a good one.
You too.
Thank you for tuning in to this episode of Tame the Taboo. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to hit like, share, and subscribe. Send this to your girlfriend so they can join you on your journey as we transition to our healthiest, wealthiest, best selves. See you on the next episode.